What is up, everybody? I am LIVE live. I hope I'm live here on my Facebook page, here on my YouTube page. Let me take one quick second. I know this is kind of screwing everything up, but I just want to triple check everything is working well here because I'd feel really bad if I'm doing all this and nobody is able to watch. But if you are, welcome to Monday Night Nerd. I greatly appreciate all of you tuning in. It means the absolute world to me that you're tuning into my show. Everything looks like it's good on YouTube, and that's what matters because that's where I usually am. Welcome to the new layout. What do you guys think? I got a border now. I mean, this is pretty cool. So this is through Streamlabs, and Streamlabs is a great platform that a few buddies of mine on the Geeks & Co channel, they use a similar thing, and I've heard how great it is. So I thought I should invest a little bit of coin in this. And here we are. We are live. Megan, thank you. Thank you for letting me know everything's working. How's everybody doing? It has been a heck of a day. Monday, what's today? The 26th of June. It has been a crazy day for my head. My head has been thumping all day thanks to this great weather and rain in the southern Ontario area. And man, it is a couple Tylenol later and a little bit of sleep. I'm the king of 15-minute power naps. I usually take like a 15-minute power nap if I'm feeling crummy in my car. I took a 45-minute power nap today because I needed it to get rid of that headache. And then I came home from work and took another half-hour nap. So popped a couple Tylenols, ate some food, chugged some water, got some more water here. Feeling much better. Glad to be here. Glad that you all can be here as well. Let's jump into some news. Because I've got a whole ton of news to talk about because it has been a couple minutes since I've been able to talk to you guys on the channel because we've had some technical issues. If you've been following me on social media for the past little while, especially on Saturday, I've told everybody that I know I'm not a TV guy. I have not watched TV shows in a long time because I'm just not the person who will sit there and just binge shows and just there's so much extra content to take in. I just can't do it. So I started trying to watch The Boys because I actually will watch the Marvel shows. I will watch, I've watched Swamp Thing. I love Peacemaker. But I was like, okay, I should watch The Boys because The Boys is the show that everyone's like, if you're a comic fan, you need to watch The Boys. And I've read the book, so I kind of know it's a good book, so I bet it's a great show. I got one episode in and I was so bored. It didn't work for me. And I feel bad because there's so much content that I know I'm missing out on by not being not being a TV person, but it's just not for me. So instead, I watched a couple movies, and those couple movies are the Fast and the Furious movies because I have not seen Fast and Furious 9 and Fast and the Furious X, and I watched both of them back to back. And it was pretty cool. It is hokey and corny as I will ever see. It is. I completely understand when people are like, I can't watch these movies anymore because it used to be about street racing. It ain't about street racing anymore. Justin Smith, next up, Fast and Furious in space. You know what? Well, they did go into space in number 9. Spoiler. I wouldn't be surprised if they do it in 11. Yeah, it was pretty funny. So let's start with number 9. Number 9 was pretty good. I was pretty happy with it. This was the introduction of John Cena as Dom's brother, which made no sense, but whatever. John was great. The whole cast did a good job. The whole going to space thing was kind of like, all right, you're really pushing your luck with this one. Out of 10, I would give it probably a 6, 7. Like, again, it's not winning an Academy Award. It's not the best movie ever made. It's a good movie, though. It's a good popcorn movie, and that's what it's built to be. X, though, I gotta admit, it pulled me in. And the main reason it pulled me in is because Jason Momoa is living his best life in that movie. I had heard rumors that Jason Momoa goes over the top in the movie. Jason Momoa Superman jumps over the roof. Like, he is so over the top and so entertaining that I'm like, this is one of the corniest roles I've ever seen him in, but I'm kind of enjoying it. And I kind of want to see more of it. So I'm waiting to see what they're gonna do for 11 and 12. I can totally see, and this is one thing I wanted to bring up. So I know a lot of people who watched Across the Spider-Verse who were very upset with the cliffhanger ending. Spoilers if you haven't seen it, it's a cliffhanger ending. They announced it when they first put the movie up that it was a part 1 of 2. Like, we all know, we should have known that. They took it out of the advertising, but they said it at the beginning. This was a cliffhanger ending too, but I don't feel like I heard a lot of people bummed about that. I just heard a lot of people saying it's that Vin announced there's going to be an 11 and a 12. This is a cliffhanger ending, and I could see it coming as soon as you hit a certain point in the movie where I'm like, and it involves a dam. As soon as that happened, I kind of had that I didn't look at my watch, but I kind of had that mental thought of like, how long has this been? This is going to be a cliffhanger. And I'm okay that it was. It made me really want to see what the next one is. In fact, I might go see the next one in the theater because that was pretty fun. I enjoyed that. I'll give Fast X or Fast 10, whatever you want to call it. I'll give that one an 8. Like, I might watch it again. It was pretty fun. And I will admit, Momoa is a good part of that. He's a good villain. He's very over the top, and I'm happy. As much as I'm a John Cena fan, I'm a big wrestling fan, so I'm a big John Cena fan. He was very, I'm just gonna kill you type person, and also Reacher's in it. Like, that came out, and I was like, oh, Reacher, hi, how are you? That was kind of cool. That's another show I watched. I watched Reacher, but that was long. I took a while to watch that one. But yeah, I enjoyed that movie. I will definitely see 11. It was pretty fun. I don't think I've seen a Fast and Furious since the second one. And you know what? The second one was the one I haven't seen. I did see it because once I saw that it was just Paul Walker, it wasn't anybody else, I didn't want to watch it because I was like, I like Vin and the rest of the gang. That's why I haven't seen it. I should watch it. 2, I heard 2 was actually one of the better ones. So I'll watch it. But yeah, that was my night. I watched 9 and 10 back to back, and it was pretty fun. It was a pretty good night. Later on this week, in 2 days, I will be seeing my first wrestling show that I've seen live in a long time. Probably the last one I saw before that was SummerSlam and NXT in Toronto before the pandemic. I will be going to AEW. If you're not in the wrestling bubble, there's WWE, and now there's another federation or organization called All Elite Wrestling. This is their first time coming to Canada, and they just had a pay-per-view last night in Toronto, Forbidden Door 2, which was a great pay-per-view from what I've heard. I haven't seen enough of it to review it, but I'll hopefully see it soon. I will be going to Dynamite and Rampage on Wednesday. I'm excited. I'm excited to see all the guys from the AEW show. I don't watch it religiously like I used to watch wrestling, but I still keep up on it. It looks, they've been doing a great job. Justin, I am not going to Collision. So that is an interesting thing I want to talk about. So they announced that their 2 shows, Rampage and Dynamite, will be taped on the Wednesday. And my buddy and I bought tickets for it because we wanted to see it. We then heard about this Collision thing coming up. And they did a terrible job. And I know, Justin, I'm a big CM Punk fan. I'm kind of bummed that I'm not seeing it. But when I first heard about Collision, I thought they were going to show it. They were going to shoot it the same night. I didn't realize until like last month that they were doing a second night here. And that's what I wanted to get into, is that I don't know if it's the smartest thing for AEW, because AEW, this is their first time going through Canada, and they're doing 4 wrestling shows in 6 days in this area. They did 2 shows in Toronto, then they're doing 2 shows in Hamilton. And I just feel like, especially because it wasn't all shot at the same time, or they haven't announced it at the same time, it was staggered. It's really going to affect ticket sales. And I would love to see Collision, but with the price of tickets, like I think we paid $90 a ticket. We're now going to have to pay $90 for the next night. Like that really frustrates me, because I would love to see Collision. I'd love to do back-to-back wrestling nights, but dropping another $90 on a show, which from what I've heard about Collision's amazing. It's probably the better of the two, but it's just not, I can't feasibly pay for 2 nights of wrestling that I'm not in that frame of mind anymore where I can do that. And I was actually thinking about going to Collision, and I did check ticket prices, and this is weird. I don't know if I'm not understanding the ticket pricing situation now, but it's weird the way that AEW's laid this out. So I was looking for, if you don't understand how to shoot wrestling, you've got the ring, and then you've got sort of a section that's usually blocked off on the side, which is all your camera stuff that's shooting this way. And then you've got what wrestling people call camera side. So I was thinking like, well, let's see how much tickets are for across from the camera. The first row going up the side, and I got the price here, $214 for one ticket. Okay. So that's the first row going up the side. The last row on the floor is $186. So if I go from the side down to the floor, but I'm at the back, I actually pay less, which I don't understand why that is. Like, I would go by closeness to the ring would be the price, but I guess they're ticketing like you'll be seen more up the side, so that better viewing. I don't get that. I don't understand that, and it kind of frustrates me. So honestly, they'll do great. It looks like once they announce CM Punk is coming back, the tickets have gone up, because at the beginning when they first announced Collision, almost no tickets were sold. I'm not kidding. I checked the map. There was probably a couple hundred sold. But now that CM Punk has come back and he's only going to be on the Collision show from what it feels like, the tickets have sold a little better. I don't think they're going to sell out in the least, but it looks like they're doing a bit better. So good for them. I'm going to be there Wednesday night. I'm going to have a great night. And be the first time seeing wrestling in a while, which kind of shocked me because I've seen so much wrestling live, indie stuff around the area, WWE all the time. I've been to pay-per-views. I've been at WrestleMania 18, which I love. But yeah, I can't wait to see it. Andy, do you watch Dark Side? I do watch Dark Side of the Ring. Actually, a buddy of mine, Dave Thorne, who sometimes is in the chat as Fandom Frontier, he acts in the show. He is I don't know what his roles are, but he has actually acted in a couple of the episodes as the silhouetted characters. But yeah, I like Dark Side of the Ring. They do a good job. They really get into the nitty gritty of some of the sadder times, unfortunately, but it's really interesting to see sort of a more generic outlook on things, because as we all know, WWE is very good at twisting reality a little bit, so it looks good to them. So it's nice to see an impartial view. What else are we going to talk about? Let's talk about something I've been doing lately. I have been playing an amazing video game that I've really enjoyed, and I'm probably going to kill it and finish it after I'm done this. TMNT Shredder's Revenge for the PS5. I'm really happy with that game. If you don't know, TMNT Shredder's Revenge was released, I believe, last year or the year before, and it's basically a successor to Turtles in Time. And it is so fun. Game-wise, it's only about 4 hours, but it is so fun to play. It is so much smoother than TMNT Turtles in Time, but man, is it so fun. If you don't have it and you have a PlayStation, figure out a way to get it. If you have on any other console that's available on Play It, it is a blast. You don't only play as the four turtles. Splinter's available, April's available as a character, and secret character, spoilers, Casey Jones is a character after you beat the story. So it is so fun, and I'm probably going to finish it tonight. And then after that, I'm going to run through Far Cry 3 again. The Classic Edition was available on the PS5. I have the PS Plus second tier, whatever it's called. I'm going to run through that after this because I really enjoy the Far Cry series, and I want to play that again. Another quick review that actually, you know what? I'm going to save that review because I'm not actually done it. I'm going to talk about it later. I've been listening to an audiobook, and it's not It's an audiobook, but it's an audio graphic novel. And we'll talk about it next week. I was going to talk about it now, but I'm not done it yet. So I'll have it done by the next episode. We'll talk about it then, but it's really good so far. But we'll talk about that later. One last bit of news before we get into the main event of the evening, and that is talking about Fan Expo and all the fun that used to be Fan Expo. I mean, Fan Expo is still fun, but it was a different thing back in the day. For the folks who've been following me on social media, specifically Instagram, this happened a few weeks ago, but I'm not able to talk about it because we've had technical issues. I had I don't want to say a rough night, but I had a night where I really wanted to watch a movie, and the movie was not available on any of my streaming services, which frustrated me. The movies were Terrifier, because I met the Terrifier gang at Niagara Falls Comic Con, and they were really sweet. They were really nice, and everybody in line was talking about how great the movie is, and I'm like, new horror is not really my thing. And they're like, no, watch it. It's really good. It's really good. So I said, all right, I'm gonna watch it. And for those who don't know, my wife is not a horror fan at all. So if I ever get a chance to watch horror, it's when she's not around. And she was at a conference for a few days, so I had the house to myself. So I'm like, I really want to watch this because it's one of the few times I'm going to be able to do it. And I couldn't find it. And it got really frustrated. So I did a video, and I was looking back on it. It was stupid of me to do this because I didn't give enough detail. And that's something you really have to do on social media, because if you come off where it's just vague, people will rip it apart. So I basically did a video just me talking and saying, I really miss the days when you'd go to Blockbuster and find a movie, and you didn't have to search 15 million streaming services or subscribe to 15 million streaming services. And like, what do I do now? Do I just not watch this movie because it's not on any of my streaming services? Blah, blah, blah. Not really a complaint, but just like, man, I really liked everything when it was just one spot, and you can go there, and if it's there, great. If it's not, whatever. And I got a fair bit of yay, and I got a fair bit of meh. And a few people were not happy with my opinion. And I've dealt with negative on the internet. It's the internet. It happens. You get used to it. But there are some things I want to talk about specifically. First of all, there was a lot of people on there saying that it was on one of the free streaming services. Now, I'm an old fart. I know. I don't look it. I look like a baby still. But deep down, I'm an old fart. I don't have time to figure out what 5,000 streaming services there are, and if they're good or if they're not, and blah, blah, blah. So when I was looking for Terrifier, one of them popped up, and I think it's called Tubi, was one of the streaming services. Before that, I'd never heard of it, but it was one of those free with ads streaming services. And I started watching it, and within 15 minutes, I had 4 minutes of ads pop up, and I got bored and frustrated because I'm like, I'm not wasting my time watching what would basically be more ads than I'd see if they played it on TV. So that was one of the things that everybody kept throwing. They're like, Tubi, you should watch on Tubi, you should watch on Tubi, you should watch. This is to anybody who's commenting on a video. If there are over 700 comments on the video, giving the obvious answer of where that streaming service is, the person's probably seen that comment about 50 times by that point. Save your energy, save your finger. Don't type it. Don't comment. Because within 15 minutes, I had 5 people tell me that Tubi was one of the options. And I commented back saying, thanks, I'm aware, ads suck, didn't want to waste my time. But after 700 comments, I knew Tubi was a choice. Second, the amount of people who did not realize that I'm Canadian and I put that this video was location Toronto. Everybody was like, it's available on all these services. Yes, they are. You're an American, though. They're not available up here in Canada. Thank you. And lastly, I was absolutely I could not believe the amount of people who were just like, pirate it, just illegally download it. Now, that is an option, 100%. But A, I wanted to support the people who made it because it was an indie movie. But B, like, I knew that the movie industry was losing money, obviously, because of illegal downloads. I didn't think it was that bad still. Like, when there was no streaming services and internet became the first thing everyone thought of was LimeWire, and you could just download anything you wanted, or Napster if you want to go that far back. I could understand the movie industry being like, oh man, we're losing so much money, and I got that. But now I'm like, man, there's 5 billion streaming services supposedly, and Netflix being the main one. There are so many people who still pirate that much stuff. And I'm not like the occasional movie. I got a feeling these guys pirate everything. Like, hey, these 5 movies came out yesterday. Pirate all of them. I'll probably never watch them, but pirate. And that just kind of stopped me in my tracks that it's that bad of a problem still. So, end all be all, I probably should have clarified a little more. And yes, I could. Another one, YouTube. Everyone kept commenting YouTube. I didn't even know you could rent movies on YouTube. And this is the marketer in me. For those who don't know, I'm a marketer. That's my job in real life, as if this isn't real life. I see those little icons of you can rent the movies on YouTube. It never dawned on me to just do it through YouTube, which is like so crazy because out of every streaming service, not streaming service, every social media, I'm on YouTube more than any, hands down. I watch more YouTube than TV, movies, anything. I've always got YouTube open, and I didn't even think about those, which shocked me to think after. Like, that was an option. It was right in front of me, and I just didn't even think about it. I don't know. But anyways, point being, I should have been more clarifying in my video. I should have thought more about what I said and been a little more, I don't know, or not posted at all. I did, as my wife pointed out in the chat, I did get a ton of engagement, 100%. I got a ton of engagement. After like 6-7 days, and there were still people complaining about it, I just put it on archive because like I'm done. And it was just negative at that point. Like, there wasn't many people who were like, yeah, I still like Blockbuster. It was just people being mad for the point of being mad. And I just got tired of hearing it. And it was not pinging my phone, but like the notification kept popping up saying you have a new comment. And I just got tired of seeing it. So you can't find it anymore. But yeah, that was, I did something dumb. I gave an opinion on the internet. Justin Smith, I still collect. Oh, I love physical. I have so many physical DVDs still. Love you, hun. They're all in the basement. I actually got rid of a bunch of them because I just had so many, and I know I'm not going to watch them. But I always say, like, there's going to be that one time where I'm like, I really want to watch this, and I'm not going to be able to find it. So, especially with the WWE stuff, I wanted to get rid of so much WWE stuff, and I was like, the network's a thing. But now I'm like, the network's not really a good thing. It's kind of crummy. So I still kept most of my wrestling DVDs. I think that's it for the news. Wow, 23 minutes in. Wow. Okay, I got to kind of muscle through this a bit because I got a lot to talk about Fan Expo. Sponsors. As always, sponsor of this podcast, this video, my lovely, beautiful wife. She is always going to be my lead sponsor. I would not be doing this if it wasn't for her. She's the one who always said, do what you want. Go enjoy yourself. I was honestly thinking I should, I was unsure about the booster and, paying money for that and paying money for the streaming thing. But she's like, no, do it because it's something you enjoy. So, put the money into something you love. So I love you, hun. I would not be here if it wasn't for you. And you know that. I love you so much. Thank you. Main event time. Let me have a quick swig of water. That's some high quality H2O. All right. Let's talk about the main event. Let's talk about Fan Expo. If you have got JS, good to see you, sir. Have a good night. Let's talk about the main event. let's talk about Fan Expo. Let me get a little comfy here. Fan Expo. So I've been going to Fan Expo since 2009. It has been a while. And the way Fan Expo looked back in the day is not the way Fan Expo looked now. If you've gone the past couple of years, you know how big that convention is. It is the biggest in the country. It is a 4-day event now, and it needs to be 4 days. I was back in the day when we first started going, it was only 3. And when they jumped to 4, I honestly went, do you need 4? And within a year or two, I went, you might need 5 because it's huge now. When we first started going there in the first year was 2009, they only had the South building. And for those who've been to Expo, you know, there are 2 buildings. There is the North building, which is up on the outside, and then there's the South building, which is down on the bottom. We just had the South building. We were down on the bottom. We never had that North building for the first year. The second year in 2010, they just had the North building. They did not rent the South building. And it was a freaking disaster. It was insane up there. That, for those who have been there now, you know that's the autograph area, and they have some merchandise there. But they had the entire convention up on that floor, and they had some of the rooms down on the second floor or third floor almost were where they had the panels and such. That was the first year that I remember hearing them hit capacity, and we were kind of shocked because I remember we were standing up above the elevators and we were just kind of taking a few minutes, and one of my buddies, I think it was Tom or Gavin, one of the two, looked at me and said, we can't leave. And I went, what do you mean you can't leave? They said, no, you can't leave because if we leave, we're not coming back in. And I went, what do you mean? They're like, they hit capacity and they're not letting anybody else in. I was like, are you kidding? That was I didn't even think that was an option. They said, yeah, they hit capacity and they can't let anybody else in. And I was blown away. But now that I see both buildings and the way that they run it now, I can totally see how they hit capacity. That year was really the first year where I realized, mind you, it was only my second year, but I really noticed the crammed feeling of a Saturday. Saturday at any convention is the busy day. And that was the first one where I was like, okay, Saturday is possibly going to be an issue going forward because there's just so many people and not enough air. Really, like that's what it came down to, was you were shoulder to shoulder with every single person in that convention. That was, I think it was that year was the year I met Alice Cooper. I believe that was the year I met Alice Cooper. He was amazing. He was such a great guest. My mom wanted to get his autograph. In fact, I wanted to meet him because I'm an Alice Cooper fan, but my mom specifically wanted to get his autograph. And I remember waiting in a pretty long line for him. It was probably about 45 minutes wait for him, but just getting up there and going like, dude, you're Alice Cooper. Like, there's not many people that I'll wait in line for anymore, especially now that I volunteer. And it's not because I get to meet them because I volunteer. They're all like, they're people. Like I think I've said that in a couple of the episodes before, where like you realize they're just people. They're just people with cool jobs. So the whole celebrity goes away for most of them. But going to meet Cooper, I'm like, $1 Billion Babies, like all these amazing albums. And seeing him live before was so cool too. But meeting him, he's so nice and he's so personable. And he made a joke in a documentary I saw where he was talking about going to some of these European festivals, and there's all these black metal bands where they're, black and white face paint and they're holding, pig heads and stuff and talking about death and Satan, all that. And then they meet Alice Cooper, like, oh my God, Alice Cooper! Oh my God, I'm such a big fan. And he always laughs at it, going like, but you're supposed to be these death guys. Like, yeah, but really, they're really nice guys. Alice is that way, which I love. Like, I love to know that Alice Cooper on his days off is a golfer. Like, that just makes me laugh thinking of what Alice Cooper does on stage. And then I'm going to go smack a couple balls around with an iron. Like, that's just so funny to me. And the only other celebrity I could think of at the time that I met, and that was through my buddy Tom going to see, was Elvira, which my mom's boyfriend was a big fan of 80s, 90s, those cult type things. And Elvira was one I always saw and heard about. And I knew of her. I never saw the movie yet. Well, I saw it post that, but I never saw it at the time. And I knew of her, but I wasn't really like, okay. But he wanted to go up because he wanted to get something signed for his mom. I want to say his mom wanted something, or Krista did. I'm not 100%. I apologize to whoever it actually was. Because there was a joke that she said to Tom of, is this your girlfriend or your mom or whatever? But I can't remember what the joke was. So it's one of the two. But she was also like amazing. I would love for her to come back so I can actually meet her and like talk to her, because she's so cool. Like, anytime I've heard things about her, I've heard she's so pleasant to be around. And that's what I think everybody wants. I think a lot of people are worried that some of these celebrities are just like pains in the butt. And I love it. I love when they're nice and calm and cool and collected, and they just make everybody's day, including the volunteers, so much better. Because I think we all kind of think that crap's going to come, but so far so good with those ones. Let's talk about something that I know my wife is going to have many comments about. And we're going to talk about where we stayed these few years. And I say a few years because it only lasted a couple years before things changed due to people's opinions. So when we first started going to Expo, we stayed at, I want to say it was a Marriott. Maybe not. Anyways, thank you, Hunt, for the comment. I want to say it was a Marriott. Anyways, that was the first year. And then if I remember correctly, after the first year, that hotel had closed. So we needed to find another hotel to stay at. And we looked and looked, and you can throw a rock in Toronto and hit a hotel. And we finally found a hotel in Chinatown, which, if you know Toronto, is about an hour, maybe just under, depending how fast you walk, to the convention. Which we're like, that's not too bad. What's the cost? And the cost was a lot cheaper than what a lot of the hotels that were in the area would be. So we went, all right, well, we save some money. We could spend that at the con, or we spend a little extra and we don't spend it at the con. I'd rather have a little bit of spending money. So we ended up staying in this little hotel in Chinatown over top of a mall. A little hole in the wall mall that had just little vendors around. At the time, we thought this was the coolest hotel because it was dingy and kind of like, I don't know, it wasn't the cleanest hotel, but like for a bunch of guys who are just enthralled with being able to go to Toronto on our own, we were having a blast. We loved it. I remember clear as day. The con was a 3-day, so it was Friday, Saturday, Sunday. It must have been the Friday night. We finished the con, and we were kind of still wired from how much fun it was. I said, let's walk downtown Toronto. And this was probably 11:30 at night. By the time we got downtown, it was about midnight. And I remember my jaw dropping when I got downtown and I realized that it's as busy at midnight as it is about 5 in the afternoon. I couldn't believe how many people were still walking around downtown. Like, I'm sitting here going like, yeah, it's a Friday night, but like there's hundreds of people still out. And I just kind of did one of those 360 turnarounds. Like, I can see people for days. It's just like it's the middle of the afternoon. And I kind of love that about Toronto. You know, I'm from Hamilton. I grew up in Hamilton. I love Hamilton. But with Hamilton, unless you're downtown, it kind of all shuts down after a certain hour. Toronto, though, because downtown is so big, it feels like it never stops. It just feels like it's always open and there's always things to do. And I kind of love that about Toronto. Do I want to move there and live through that every day? Nah, not for me. But I enjoyed that hotel. And I can see my wife's comment in the YouTube stream. I love you, hon. And when we moved to the Motel 8, it was the same. Yes, I'm aware. Anyways, so when we were all staying there, we enjoyed it. We're a bunch of guys. We don't give a shit. Like, we didn't mind the walk. We were tired by the time we got back. Well, whatever. Third year, fourth year, I can't remember. The wives or girlfriends at the time wanted to come because at the time, Tom and Gavin had girlfriends for years. I had just started dating my wife, and she had been going to conventions for years and years and years before that. And I think this was one of her last going without me kind of having to bug her into going, because she kind of got tired of it. Yes, you were going first. I just said you were going before I was. She was going many years before I started going to conventions. This was one of the last times that she was going purposefully, because I feel like I had to kind of push her into going because she got bored of it, and that's completely understandable. I completely understand when people get tired and bored of Fan Expo. So back to the story before I was interrupted. We decided to bring the girlfriends along, and the girlfriends, as soon as they saw our living conditions, kind of went, what are you guys doing? And we're like, this is cool. And they're like, this sucks. What are you guys doing? And I remember we were walking with all of our suitcases because we weren't driving at the time. We took the GO train in, and they were kind of like, how far is the hotel? And I'm like, it's about a 50-minute walk. And they're like, what? Like, yeah, it's about a 50-minute walk. And by the end of that con, they're like, this is great. This is the last time we're ever staying here because this sucks. Let's look. And we ended up, there was other hotels that were closer that were about the same price, but we kind of enjoyed, like, that was part of the fun, was going for a walk and yakking about stuff. And we enjoyed it. But now that the girlfriends were coming along, we had to make some adjustments because we want to make them happy because we love them. But with that change came an infamous story, because the next year we actually ended up staying at the Royal York, the famous Royal York in downtown Toronto. And we did not realize that this was the hotel that a lot of the celebrities were staying at. And we decided, so this is something that I always laugh at. Anytime either the guys or even when they brought the girlfriends, or pretty much anytime I stay at a hotel, or my wife and I have gone on some cruises, and they always have all the amenities. They always have gyms and things to do around the hotel, and they're all free with your stay. Never use them. Never use them. So I said to Tom, I said, look, we're paying for this stuff. Let's use it because we might as well. So we didn't want to go for a swim because then we got to dry off. Yeah. So I said, you know what we should do? We should go down into the sauna, and you have to be there long, but let's just kick back in the sauna and relax. I think this was after the Friday as well. So we if you've never been in a sauna, you usually go down there in just a robe. And so Tom and I went down and we kicked back in the sauna, and it was so nice. So nice. It was nice, relaxing. We were just talking about life and everything else, and about the convention and everything else. After a while, we went, all right, let's head up and let's get ready for bed. And we got out. And if you know the Royal York, the sauna and everything's down underneath below the main floor. So we got out and we walked to the elevator and we hopped in and we started going up, and we stopped at the main floor because somebody was getting on the elevator. And that person was Ron Pearlman from Hellboy and Sons of Anarchy. And yeah. And Tom is a big Ron Pearlman fan. And I am a Ron Pearlman fan. I appreciate his work, but Tom is a big Pearlman fan. So we're standing at the back in just our robes, and Ron Pearlman's in front, and he's facing the door, and Tom is basically going, oh my gosh, Robert, shut up. We're good. So we get off the elevator, and he's coincidentally getting off in the same floor as us. And you walk to the end. The hallway can go left or right. And we get to the cross, I guess. And Ron sort of looks right and looks left, and you can tell he's kind of lost. And Tom looks at him and says, Ron, you looking for something? And I think he said, yeah, I got to find my room. He goes, well, do you want some help looking for your room? And Ron goes, no, it's okay. Thanks, though. He goes, okay, well, have a good evening. And we walk away, and he's going, oh my God, I talked to Ron Pearlman. And I'm cracking up. He goes, what's so funny? I said, Tom, you just asked Ron Pearlman if you can help him find his room, wearing nothing but a robe, basically. You are a half-naked man asking Ron Pearlman if he needs help finding his room. You see how awkward that could have been? And he goes, oh my God, I can't believe that happened. And I always rub that in his face because I love Tom to death. I love him. He is a brother to me, but he is awkward when it comes to meeting celebrities. And I've had a couple instances, but he is awkward when it comes. He just gets tongue-tied, and it's so adorable because he becomes a little kid when he meets his favorite celebrities. So that is a moment that I tell everybody because I just love that. We had an interaction with Ron Pearlman, and we're just half naked standing in front of him. Ron, do you want help finding your room? Come on. And yeah, it was pretty funny. It was pretty funny, but I completely understand why Ron Pearlman said no. Looking back on it, it was quite awkward. But yeah, going Fan Expo, those first few years was very different. The switch to the 4-day happened, I believe, 2014. So for those first few years, it was 3-day. But you also didn't have 10 billion things to do like they do now. They also didn't have 10 billion celebrities there. Because like once they hit, I can't remember what year Avengers came out, but that was the year that everything kind of exploded. And I know based on what San Diego Comic-Con's numbers are, they had their biggest spike when Twilight came out, actually, because they had the cast there, and a lot of people think it was the Avengers, but it was actually Twilight. Ours was Avengers. That's when it definitely skyrocketed, and I think it was the year after Avengers came out that is when it became 4 days, because you just couldn't do it all in 3 days, and there was just too many people to do it. Like, you just had too many people wanting to get in for 3 days. You needed to get that 4th day. Thank you, hun. 2012 was the year that Avengers came out. I didn't want to say 2012. I thought it was, but I didn't want to make an arse out of myself. But yeah, once they switched to the 4-day, and I think that was the same year they decided to do both buildings, that made things a lot easier. But it also made things a lot harder because once you get into the point where they are now, where you have to involve that bridge, and getting from one building to another, it's a little tough on a Saturday. Thursday, Friday, not too bad. Saturday could be a nightmare. Saturday, if anybody wants any advice, if you've never been to Fan Expo, or if you've been to Fan Expo and want to go back, or if you're wanting to travel from building to building on a Saturday, if it's midday, I would highly suggest just going outside and walking around the street. Go under the train tracks and come around. Because while it is going to be possibly an extra few minutes, you're not going to be standing in a bridge with 10,000 other people sweating your butt off. That's kind of the way I do it now. If it's a Saturday, I'm leaving and going out. Unless it's, they hit the capacity, and I hear rumors of that, which they usually tell you if you're going out. They'll say, like, you're going to have trouble getting back in. But yeah, the 2010 to 14 was definitely the biggest evolution that con's had. I know now that I think they're wanting to slow it down a little bit. I have no insider knowledge. I could just kind of tell by the way that it's sort of grown in the past couple of years since Informa has bought it. I don't think they want it to grow as much anymore because I think they're hitting a ceiling when it comes to space, when it comes to manpower, and that's not just from a volunteer standpoint. I think that's from a working for Informa. And I think they had such a big growth in 2014 that I don't think they've been able to pull back enough yet, or it hasn't come down, I should say, as much as I thought it would. Like, I really thought it would be a bell curve where it would go up and come right back down. But it's kind of held on there. And it's, even with, some people would say there's a fatigue in the Marvel movies and the Marvel TV shows. I thought there'd be a lot less, but it seems like Fan Expo and even, Niagara Falls Comic Con, another one that seems like it's growing. Niagara Falls, I still think it's growing every year. Fan Expo, I think they can't get much bigger. The MCC won't support any, and that's the problem. Thank you, Alex. Yeah, the Metrotronic Convention Center can only fit so much, and I think we're getting close. If not, we're already there. We can't do anything else, and unless you do something like a San Diego Comic Con or an Anime North, where you start doing things in hotels across the street, like if you want to do the Royal York or the Intercontinental, where you book out a ballroom or something and do some stuff there, I don't think they can grow anymore. And I think that growth in 2012, 13 hasn't stopped. And, I don't want to say that I enjoyed the way it used to be compared to now, because I definitely enjoy the way it is now. There's a lot more, which I appreciate. There's a lot more people involved. Like, I definitely think having groups like the Geeks & Co. guys there and the Cosplay Alliance guys there, and, making cosplay specifically a more integral part of the con is important. But there seemed to be, this is, okay, I'm trying to say this without, it's not insulting, but I kind of like the grittiness of the old con. And I feel this way when I'm at Anime North, where Anime North is completely volunteer run. So it's not as shiny as it could be. And I feel like Fan Expo, because it's run by a big corporation, it's so smooth now that, I don't know, I don't get that grittiness to it anymore. I don't get that, not that anything can happen, but just that, I don't know. Like, prime example, in 2012, I was walking down the one aisleway, and this woman was walking towards me, and I knew exactly who she was. And my jaw dropped, where I'm just like, you're walking through the middle of a crowd. You're not a guest. You're just walking through the crowd as a fan, and you're not being mobbed by everybody. And she walked past me, and I went like, I have to say hi. And I turned around and I just tapped her on the shoulder and I said, hi, I'm a fan. Can I get a quick photo? And she said, sure, of course. And I took her photo. That person was Lita from WWE. She was just walking through the crowd. She wasn't even a guest. She was just there. I think Trish was there that year, and she was there to see her. But I know that wouldn't happen nowadays. I feel like everybody has so much security around them that it wouldn't happen because they'd either get mobbed or the con would say, don't do it because we don't want there to be an issue. Like even Niagara Falls Comic Con a couple weeks ago, Michael Rosenbaum, Lex from Smallville, he was walking down the aisle and I'm walking towards him and I kind of wanted to say hi, but he was in the middle of a conversation. I wanted to say, hi, Lex. But just that, like anything, you could run into anything and just anything could happen. I miss that a little bit. But again, I'm not saying anything wrong with about Fan Expo today. I love Fan Expo. I think it's a great con. And, you know, I'm going to be excited to go back again this year. It's going to be a blast again this year. Alex, Tom Arnold was running. Tom Arnold seems like somebody that would run around. For those who don't know, that Alex volunteers at some of the conventions that I do, and you know, I don't know about him, but there are a couple celebrities that we all know is like we need to sort of put a balloon on some of these people. Jason Mewes is another one where he'll just get up and go for a walk, and we're just like, hey. You gonna come back? No, I'll be back. And he'll just go walking. And we're just like, okay, see ya. Like, whatever. But yeah, like I don't see that happening nowadays at Fan Expo. I think they're so worried about things going wrong. And which, again, if you're a corporation, I completely understand it. But the days of the old convention, I think they'll come back. You know, I definitely do think it's a bell curve. I think this bell curve is a lot bigger than I thought it was going to be. For those who don't know the background, I just said it a little while ago. Informa is the owner of the convention. They've also bought all the Wizard World. So I think they have a total of like 13 cons across North America. So, you know, do I think all 13 are going to stay around forever? No, I don't. I think sooner or later we're going to get to a point, especially with the Marvel fatigue, and it's going to go back down to what it was. And I think we will get that grittier, more normal con. I think that's something. That they're going to go back to. Justin, they're canceling a lot of fan expos in the US. Really, I did not know that. I heard that they still had it seemed like 1,000. It seemed like every major city had one. But that's interesting if they are going to start canceling them because I know they bought the Wizard World and they had to do some of their contracts still. So maybe that's part of it. I don't know, but yeah, I think we'll get back to that because I kind of enjoyed the old con, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe that's the nostalgia goggles kicking in, and I'm thinking of things that I didn't. I'm looking back on them fondly when really they kind of sucked. So we will see. I was gonna go through some of my cosplay performances from those cons, but we're running a little short on time. We're at the 53-minute mark, so I think I'm gonna do an episode where I'm gonna talk about cosplay performances. I think that might be next week's episode. How about that? Everybody cool with that? Next week's episode, we're going to talk about specifically cosplay performances. We're going to talk about, thank you, Alex. We will definitely talk about different performances because I've got a couple from this con that were definitely learning experiences. And I know a couple people were talking to me at Anime North about wanting to sort of get my opinion on how I've evolved my cosplay performances over the past almost 10 years. So we'll talk about that next week. Let's jump into a few Q&As and then we will let you guys get out here. We actually didn't get any Q&As this week. It's been kind of slow. I think that was because all the technical issues. People weren't sure if we were going to be doing the show or not. So I came up with a little thing that I think a lot of people would appreciate, and I'm probably going to cut this clip and make it a little short piece for my social media. I have been asked a couple times, what's some advice you'd give new cosplayers? And, when I started cosplaying back in 2011, I think it was 2010, the cosplay wasn't as big as it is now. So the amount of people that want to do it has grown exponentially. And I think a lot of people see, I'm not putting myself in this world, but major cosplayers and doing these big builds and intricate builds, and they're just going like, where do I begin? Like, there's no way I can sew all this stuff and build these big intricate pieces. And I've been asked, my son wants to start, or my friend wants, or I want to start. How do I start? What's some advice on how to get started? So my 5 pieces of advice are: 1, start small. Don't think you're going to build some big Kamui cosplay, Night Mage, big giant Iron Man suits. Start small. Build one thing, one tiny thing, one small cosplay. Don't go nuts, because this might only be a phase. You might not, want to do this forever. So start small. Number 2, don't buy too much. Don't buy 10 tons of material. Don't buy, 10 tons of things to build. Like, I've got glue, I've got, contact cement, tape, knives, everything. Don't buy all that stuff. Just buy your essentials. If you want to do foam, especially foam, because that's my thing, get a good X-Acto knife, thick, big one, thin one, doesn't matter. Get a sanding stone to sharpen the knife so you don't have to buy new knives all the time. Pick up some foam, pick up some hot glue. You don't need crazy expensive adhesive. Hot glue works fine. The only thing you got to worry about is if it gets warm in the summer when you're out wearing the cosplay, it might melt a little bit. So just worry about temperature. And get some PPE, get some protective equipment, get a respirator, and get some gloves just so you don't get muck on everything. Pick a character you enjoy. If it's something, if you want to do Spider-Man, just buy yourself a Spidey suit. Don't go and think you have to make it. Like, just because you want to pick a character you can buy a cosplay instead of building it, buying's fine. Buying absolutely fine. If you want to do a Punisher cosplay and you just want to buy the shirt and buy the black pants and buy the boots and buy a couple airsoft guns or Nerf guns or whatever, be my guest. That's perfectly fine. You don't have to go crazy on your first cosplay. Just enjoy it. Don't stress. Number 4, don't stress. Take your time. Enjoy. Don't think that you have to have it by a certain date. If you want it done by a convention time, if you don't get it done, it's okay. It's not the end of the world. Just don't stress about it. Enjoy the process. And number 5, like I said, give yourself time to fail. That's the biggest one. Give yourself time to fail, because you will make mistakes. I was horrible for that when I first started. Everything had to be done on the first try. If I made a mistake, the world was crumbling. Take your time. Give yourself some time to breathe. Give yourself some time to fail, because you are going to make mistakes. I will tell everybody, my biggest mistake was I wanted to be the White Ranger. And I decided that to be the White Power Ranger, I needed to build myself the helmet. Even though I could buy it, I wanted to build it. And I tried to build a Power Ranger helmet out of cardboard and Bondo. And I ended up building it out of cardboard, and then to smooth it over, I covered the entire thing in Bondo. And this thing had to weigh 30 pounds. And I had to throw it out. And I was devastated. But I learned from that things like Bondo have weight behind it. Things get heavy. So give yourself time. So again, 5 pieces of advice. Start small. Don't buy too much. Pick a character you love. Don't stress. And give yourself time to fail. It's okay. We're all in this together. We'll get through it. Folks, thank you so much for joining. I hope you guys enjoyed this. I hope you enjoyed this new layout. I'm digging this. This might change. This was just like the first draft of it, but I might change this background a little bit, but I'm kind of digging this. Again, thank you very much. Next week, as I said, we're going to talk about cosplay performances. We're going to talk about how my cosplays have evolved, how my performances have evolved. We're going to go through a couple of my cosplay performances, talk about, what I learned, advice for you guys if you're wanting to get into performance cosplay. But folks, have a good week, and I will see you all next week here on YouTube and Facebook and hopefully Twitch next week. Monday Night Nerd, Myers Corp Creations. Have yourselves a fantastic week, and I will see you next week. See you, folks. Hey, thanks for watching Monday Night Nerd. If you enjoyed this content, please hit the subscribe button, like this content, and follow on social media for even more nerd